Oh, then it's always nice when the crowd just get quiet. Then I feel, well, even though I have 100 presentations each year, I'm always a bit nervous, especially when it's not my first language as well. So nice to see you all, and I bring this one to the table. You have all got it. I will say a bit about this project and a bit about the guidelines as well. Not too much, actually. It's just 15 minutes. So introducing you a bit to what we have done and what the outcomes have been and how to work with the guidelines. It was kind of full here, so place them there. Not on the floor, please, all of you. Okay. My name is Kjetil Knarlag. A K and an N in Norwegian is very normal, not very normal in any other language, I guess. So I won't have to force you to practice on that one, and I think you did well, actually. And the project, Universal Design for Learning, License to Learn. And you might wonder, why is there a movie set on this nice cartoon made by Kine Din from Luleå Technical University in Sweden, which has been the cartoonist of the project, actually. Well, when you are from an administrative staff, as we were in Norway, applying for a strategic partnership normally given to the faculty of, whatever, we have to have a catchy title. And the license to learn, it was, I don't remember actually who made that idea, and it has followed us all the time. And I see that, well, it was highly rated by the National Agency for Erasmus Plus Strategic Partnership Committee, because they really said, well, this was something quite different. And I think also the project is very different from a lot of the other strategic partnerships around the university sector. What's important for me to say, since this is a very brief launching of the project and the project outcome and the best practice guidelines, it's a project. It was a project, and when the project outcome is finished, normally you take the project outcome and say, yeah, we did that, and you put it in a drawer. But not this time, actually. This is going to be a baseline. It's a start, and it has to be developed, and it has to be developed in a context, in a different context from different countries, different cultures, and different stakeholders as well. So it's just it's a starting point, and it's very important for me to say that. Now, see how this works. The partners for the strategic partnership was actually only 3. It was a head from Ireland. It was Sihu, then belonging to Havest in Belgium, and Universell, which is Norwegian for Universal, at the university in Trondheim in Norway. And we had 3 different products. The best practice guidelines for the UDLL for students, academic staff, management, and student support staff, you have all in your bags. We also made a self-assessment learning toolkit about UDL and UDL for students called the Student Toolkit, which is accessible also at the website. I don't know if you have any stand on that one here. We also had a dissemination conference last year in Belgium about project results, but now we are moving forward, and we see that it's been just a few months since the project was finished, and we still see that a lot of things are coming into effect and changing, which is very important. About the guidelines, it's 4 different perspectives, and what Katie was speaking of early this morning was very good, because it's about bringing the stakeholders to the table, and that's what we actually did. We brought 4 different very important stakeholders in higher education to the table to discuss how to implement and how to work on universal design for learning in a higher education context. Because it's very different when it comes, universal design for learning can be very different from upper secondary when you enter higher education and you meet all these professors and academics who don't actually are trained for meeting diversity and not trained for being teacher. They have in different countries they have small pedagogic courses, very small ones, and they are not trained to be teachers. We brought them to the table, And out of these 4 stakeholders, the students, the academics, the student support, and very important, the managers was there as well. And I see a couple of the managers participating in the project here in the audience. It was a million opinions of what should actually UDL be like. How should it look like in our context? And it's a context for different countries trying to find what's common for us. Well, how did we address the different stakeholders? The students. We asked them a very easy question when it's not an easy question, it's a difficult question actually, but it's a very short question. If you could advise your younger self when you were considering university, what advice would you now give? We didn't ask them, what do you think about universal design? Or do you need universal design? We just asked them, how is it to be a student? What do you need? What's the best situation for you? And more than 70 students actually asked and came forward and asked to be a part of the project. Only 9 were possible to pick. We could have had them all to the table, but it was very interesting, their views. The management and the policymakers, very, very important stakeholder group. How can policymakers and management develop a sustainable, and it's very important to be sustainable and manageable framework to address diversity in higher education? Once more, we didn't ask the managers from 3 different countries, and they were from different political levels. There was vice chancellors present, there were ministries present, it was vice deans for education present, and they were all coming together and working on, well, this is our view. This is very important to address this. And in the guidelines, they are presented both as a top-down implementation of universal design for learning, which is very important. The academics, how about them? Think about your own practice and how you respond in an innovative way to diversity in the student population. What example of good practice are you most proud of? This was the question we recruited academics from. And once again, we just asked them about their good practice. And we see, well, what kind of good practice fit into the framework of universal design? I'm not very used to stand still when I talk. I'm normally all over the place, so be patient. And it was so extremely interesting to see that both the students and the academics from different countries had the same ideas. And they are also gathered together into these guidelines. And how about the student support service, trying to help people to walk the stairs, to get them up and to do what they're actually supposed to do. It's supposed to be students. Looking at your working supporting students with disabilities today, what challenges and success criteria do you see in developing a universally designed learning environment? Important question as well. It was very well addressed by 9 student support services from the 3 different countries. And this ended up in these guidelines. And it was, I can promise you, a very tough discussion about how to present the findings from the 4 stakeholder workshop groups. Should we address them 1 chapter for each? Or should we try to find what actually are the guidelines that they can all learn from? And it's important to say that, well, even though, like guideline number 1, create a sustainable and coherent policy through clear visions and strategies, it's not just for the managers. It's also for disability coordinators working with the managers, scaffolding for changes, which is very important. It's not supposed that this guideline is just for me, it's just for you. It's a common work. And all these 7 guidelines, and there might have been more as well, that's where we stopped in this project. Well, every day when we come out of a project, it's been hard and tough, and it's been fun, and it's been a lot of work. But what's next? What's real world like? Well, to implement theory into real action is is quite difficult. Eleanor from Norway and Judith from the Netherlands will talk a bit about afterwards about what kind of examples have we seen in our countries in implementing theories into practice. But of course, it's a challenge. To change the fixed mindsets, well, Kjetil Knarlag spoke about fixed mindsets this morning, which also is very important. And I feel that, well, even in the project, we were so very into this, and perhaps our mindsets were fixed as well. It might be so. To challenge established cultures is very important. Back to Eleanor, which will speak about this afterwards from a Norwegian point of view. We see that changing culture is one of the most important parts for implementing UDL. How to reach the untouchables. I call them just untouchable. I didn't really know what to call them. But of course, academics can feel like they're far up there in their atmosphere somewhere, coming down to the planet to teach someone for an hour, and then they leave again. Goodbye. And how to address these people is not so easy always. I know. I teach a bit myself at the University College in Norway. And how to walk the talk is not always so easy, even though I know how to do it. Then you have to find some kind of different way of doing it. And this is also a bit about this in these guidelines. And of course, a lot of people here, we know that we are enthusiasts. We really want to do it. We work on it and we don't give up. Don't give up, we hear. Well, we don't give up, but the institution has to be the right owner of this. And how do we work to ensure that? It's quite difficult, and I feel that even though visions and strategies might be something put in a drawer, if it's too unrealistic, it's important to have visions also, and to scaffold for these visions, you have to feed with knowledge, feed with good examples, find the early adopters, as we say. So inside here and in the student toolkit, there's tools for all stakeholders. They are quite different. They are to be developed also by you guys. But one of the most important parts is to build on strong networks and to collaborate. The faculties, well, there are a lot of pockets of good practice, Paddy Turner said 1 hour ago. But it's not systemized into something that we can work further on. But of course, use those pockets, use them cleverly. Find the early adopters who have actually done something, not necessarily called it universal design, but perhaps like flipping classroom, which we will come back to later. And offer them knowledge, offer them training. Support, well, in these guidelines we have said that the agents for change are the old disability offices. The disability office in Norway has changed a lot. Then a lot of them don't even meet students anymore. They facilitate. They facilitate for faculties. They facilitate for training courses, for teacher training and stuff like that. But they're still the central agent for change because they have the holistic view. The students, well, involve them. They have the first-hand experience. And we were quite, we saw the differences between countries. Norway has been quite early, even though we didn't need Brexit. We were outside before. But we have survived as well. And one of the main things that we have implemented through the Bologna process is student feedback. It's very much systemized, the student feedback all over. And there's a place to involve and to use the students. The university pedagogues, shortened here as UNIPED, gives legitimacy, it gives expertise, which is very important. But even though all these are working, someone has to be making the ground rules. And here's the management. How to facilitate cooperation, how to give them the manager's true role, which is organizing, which is planning, which is opening for diversity, to make these visions, to make the work be possible. Inside this, something for all and something to work on, and as the Disability Office, as the Agents for Change, to raise awareness, to promote UDL, to implement through action plans, to collaborate with Centers for Teaching and Learning, to support initiatives, and to ensure that service offices by themselves, by yourselves, are universally designed, is a common work. Scaffold for success through collaboration. That's the most important message right now, because this is very, very brief introduction and launching of these guidelines. I hope they can be used. I hope they can be discussed. And I hope that you bring this back to us in some way and say, well, we see what you have been doing here. Something is missing. We want to challenge this. We want to change it. We want to do it in our context. Feel free and involve us, involve the project if you need to. Okay, that was the launching, formally launched here in this context. And thank you for listening.